Good evening, friends. Welcome back to my channel. Today I'm here to talk about one of the most famous watch brands in the world, Rolex. Established in 1905, and it's got a very storied history. This brand has been the one brand that has captivated my imagination right up till the time since I've joined retail, which is more than 20 years back. There is no other brand that I've had such passion for, and no other brand that is the most easiest to sell when it comes to features and benefits, which is what most salespeople use to sell products. Rolex is a no-brainer, and that is why I'm doing this video. So I'm not expecting you to take my word for it, but you just Google it up and you will see people as famous as Pope John Paul II to Fidel Castro, who used to wear two Rolexes on his hand. You've got people like the Dalai Lama. You had presidents of the US and UK wear these beautiful handcrafted masterpieces, is what I will call them. And the thing is that Rolex was not always that company that was on the pioneering and cutting edge of watch technology. Today, when you talk about market share, Rolex is the number one luxury brand when it comes to watches, and its market share is more than 25%, which is basically the sum of the next five largest watch brands combined. So you've got other watch brands like Omega, Cartier, Audemars, Patek Philippe. These are all iconic brands, but none of them come even close to Rolex. Rolex is not necessarily a high-end luxury brand. It is more of an entry-level, what you would call an affordable luxury brand. But in this particular Rolex, I almost had to sell my kidney to buy it, which is another story. So I consider this a luxury item in the bracket that, what I can afford. But for people who are rich, they would consider this an affordable luxury item. So let's get a little more detailed into the product lines of Rolex. So Rolex has a couple of product lines which are really famous and to die for. You've got the Rolex Daytona, one of their most coveted collections, which was popularized by Paul Newman. You have the Rolex Submariner series, which is basically the ones where people can go who are divers and take it down to the depths of the ocean. Within that, there are so many different sub-series. You start with the Submariner, you go to the Sea Dweller, which is what I have here, the two-tone Sea Dweller, and then you go to the Deep Sea Dweller. And that was popularized by James Cameron when they came up with the lovely blue and black dial of Rolex. Then they've patented so many technologies. They were inspired by the oyster, how the oyster, used to not allow water to enter the shell because of the mechanism of it, and that is how they were inspired to create the Submariner. So there's a lot of history behind whatever Rolex has done. They never necessarily were the ones to invent technologies, but they took existing technologies, they married it so well together and came up with an excellent fit and form where design was concerned. So you have so many models of Rolex that have become really popular that basically it is very difficult. My own watch buying experience, it's very difficult to get hold of a Rolex. I remember that, I was in Dubai in around 2019 when I actually, went into a Rolex showroom, and I was actually not being entertained. It happened to be that one of the members of staff was one of my ex-staff who worked under me. He recognized me and he made sure, that he would keep the watch that I wanted at that time. And I somehow, when I went to look at it and it came through within a couple of days, I kind of chickened out. I didn't have the courage to, spend that kind of money on a Rolex. And no doubt that I was thinking about it for the past 15 to 17 years. So finally, when I returned to India after leaving the Middle East, and then the pandemic happened, I started calling up all the Rolex showrooms across India, thinking that now people are going to be not really interested in investing in watches, so you might get what you want. And to my surprise, the watch stores were absolutely empty. I was lucky that I got hold of Ethos, which is one of the authorized distributors of Rolex in India. I met a fantastic associate over the phone who was very receptive to my needs. My needs were very simple. I was not looking for a highly coveted model of Rolex. I said that I'll go for any two-tone, stainless steel and gold model, which what Rolex calls a Rolex. And I said, you call me up and let me know when that comes in. And to be honest, I was not expecting any call, so I never really thought about it that much. But then she called me, about 30 days later and said, you know what, we have a customer who had reserved a deep sea, a two-tone deep sea, and would you like to purchase it? And I said, yeah, sure, I'd love to come across and have a look at it before I purchase it. And I went across, I made arrangements for the money, and then the next thing you know, my account was lower by about, $18,000. So that's besides the point. But what I'm trying to say is that, even if you want these items today, you go to any of the Rolex boutiques, what you see is empty shelves. And there's a lot of due diligence that they do also before deciding to sell you the Rolex. They actually looked up my profile and decided whether I was the right person to sell the watch to, or they may have thought this guy is a flipper. He's trying to make a profit on the watch by buying it and selling it to someone else. When they were suitably convinced, I think that is how they called me up so quickly, and I was extremely excited to get the watch. So I hope you enjoyed this video. I'm going to see you at the next one. Ciao.